Hey there planners, today I'm going to be setting up the month of March in my work bullet journal. This is a very functional setup. I have incorporated some of the Hobonichi planner layouts that are helping me to be very functional and very productive in my planner. So go grab your planners and let's get planning. Alright, so the first thing I set up for the month in my work bullet journal is my monthly spread. I use my monthly spread as a catch-all for a master task list, as well as a place to take quick notes for things I want to discuss with my direct reports in upcoming one-on-ones, or for me to talk to my own manager about in my one-on-one. So I use an entire page for that with just a grid layout and the boxes I need. So I'm going to be setting that up, and I'll talk a little bit about how it went last month with using the Hobonichi-like setup. So I was really studying ways to, maximize my productivity and looking at different layouts. I've gone from very, very minimal to a bit more decorative and more complicated, more spreads, and I think I've really found a happy medium there between the two. And it was really implementing a combination of bullet journaling with a bit of the Hobonichi layouts. I'm really enjoying having months, weeks, and days. And the thing that I find that makes that successful is you have to really differentiate between how you want to use all the separate spreads. So things that are tracked in the daily spreads cannot be tracked in the weekly spreads. Things that are tracked in the weekly spreads you don't want to recreate. So sitting down and spending some time on mapping out what goes in each section is really important if you're going to be using multiple planning spreads within a month. I have a video on mind mapping your planning needs. I actually use that same methodology for understanding how I was going to use the Hobonichi layouts in my work bullet journal spread. I will have that video linked in the description box below, as well as the February work bullet journal setup where I talked about how I would be using the different pages. All right, so here's my two-page layout. So on this side, I am just going to use, and you will see I use a little bit of decoration, not much. I keep it pretty minimal, and really the colors are about being able to differentiate between one month to the next. It really helps me, helps my mind when I am flipping through and looking for something specific. Sometimes I can remember that it's in the green section or it's in the pink section, and that's just how my mind works. And so the colors are really about differentiating between different months and different days. All right, so I have these tiny calendar printouts. You can certainly draw these calendars out. I find that drives me absolutely insane, and I make a lot of mistakes. There are also some stamps, and I actually have stamps with these tiny calendars on them. And what I am using now is just a printout of a miniature calendar. These came from, I believe, Lovely Planner, where there are a ton of free printables. I will leave a link in the description box below to where I get a long list of where I get all my printables. I did a video on that, and so I'll leave that in the description box below. So I like to have the master task list because there are some things that either I need to do this month that I don't necessarily have to do on a specific date, or they are it's a good place to just dump to-dos as they're coming in. So I will use this page just to capture any incoming to-dos and also to track things that don't necessarily have a specific date. And then the way I use this list is as I'm going through the weeks in the month and doing my weekly reviews and prepping for the next upcoming week, I will come to this list and pull anything from here that needs to be on a specific day or just sometime within the week. This side, as I talked about, I use as a catch-all for any notes or quick items that I need to talk to my direct reports about. So I actually divide this up into 8 boxes because I have 7 direct reports, and then I also use a box for myself for my one-on-ones. And you can see it's not even. That's okay. I usually have plenty of room left over here, and so that's fine that it's not even. But the point is just being able to have a quick place if I'm on the phone or I'm listening to a meeting or something comes in the inbox, I can quickly jot down, hey, make sure I'm talking to so-and-so about this. And I'll come back in afterwards, and after I finish setting this, filming this video, and I will write in the names of the direct reports who these boxes are dedicated for. The other thing I'll do, which I forgot to do when I set it up, is I do like to divide this page in half. I find that I can, on a lot of the pages, I can split the page in half and really double the real estate. So, I'll of course start on the left-hand side and then move to the right-hand side as I need it. But that just gives me a little bit more flexibility in the page. The other thing I have here is a tab, and you can see I've got tabs for each month. These I actually got off Amazon, really great price for planner tabs, and they just stick right on. So that helps me quickly get to the month. And that is the monthly page setup. Very simple. You can see I'm not putting a calendar in here because honestly I use Outlook as my work calendar, and so I don't want to try to recreate in here the actual scheduling and calendar items. I really refer to that in Outlook. This tiny calendar is here for reference in case I need it. When I'm thinking about due dates and things I can quickly reference here on the page. But this is really more about managing tasks and to-dos. So that is the first setup. All right, for the next few pages, I am going to be setting up all the weeklies. And this is where I kind of steal from the Hobonichi model. In, for example, Hobonichi Cousin, which I am using for memory planning. The way the planner is set up, you have your yearly spreads at the beginning, and then you have all your monthly spreads, then all your weekly spreads, then all your daily pages. So I've modified that a bit in the way I'm setting this work planner up, where I have each month in its place. So the monthly spread, then all the weeks for that month, then all the daily pages for that month. And just containing it within months really seems to be working effectively for me. And again, I talked about how making sure I'm dividing what I put in the monthly spread versus what goes into the weeklies and the dailies. So the next section I'm going to set up are going to be the weeklies. So for the weekly spreads, and I do use a little bit of washi just to differentiate between the weeks. So you'll see that I'll use 4 different washi tapes just to help me recognize, where one week begins and, ends. And that it's just visual cues to me. And, again, it can be pretty, but it's really about speed. So I can quickly tell where weeks are located by, using the visual cues. But what I include on the weekly pages are, first of all, any to-dos that need to be done that week. So again, I'm pulling from physical and digital places for that, because there are some things that you just really can't track in a physical planner. If I think about emails, I would not want to recreate my emails in my planner, rewrite everything. So I do use my inbox. I also use Microsoft OneNote for collecting items, digital items, things that don't make sense to try to recreate in a physical planner. And then I also have my monthly spread. So I'll have the master to-dos here that are coming in, and also things for my direct reports. And then so I will pull them into the weekly section so that I can make sure I'm covering anything that is specific to that week for that person. And you can see as I'm adding things like this, I'm really not about how pretty it is. For me, it's all about functionality. So I'm very focused on you know, making sure each element that I'm putting in here is very functional. I know I could take some more time and, you know, kind of maybe incorporate some other ideas that would be prettier than just a, you know, a shaded inbox, but that's really not what it's about for me. All right, so I like to highlight on the mini calendar what week that we're talking about, what week we're in. So this will be my general to-do section. So I'll just pull out a sticker. I do use some stickers in this planner, but very minimally. So this is where I will pull in any to-dos. I also, as the week goes on, I will capture any incoming to-dos here so that I can disposition them as needed at the end of the week in my weekly review. So my next step is going to be to actually draw the boxes for the days of the week in. All right, so I've got the boxes drawn in, and I will just come in here and write the dates. I don't use stickers here. I just write the dates. And then I also keep a column over here for next week, anything I just want to make sure I capture that might be going on or coming up next week. And the way I use this, because I do have all of the weeks set up already, this is not really about capturing to-dos. This is more about things that I might need to talk about this week that are happening next week. So for example, if I'm in this week and I know I'm going to be out of the office for a couple days next week, I would go ahead and put that here because that's something I would want to make sure I tell my supervisor and my direct reports while I'm in this week. So I'd want to keep that on my mind. So that's kind of how I use this column here. All right, a couple of other things I add to this page. So I have my things to do. There are 2 meetings that happen for me every week. And I like to have dedicated spaces for those 2 meetings because there are certain things that I need to make sure I communicate in those 2 meetings, and there are always to-dos out of those 2 meetings. And so I will just, as I think of things that I need to share, I will put them in these, I will put the title of the meetings in these 2 boxes, and then add in some notes that I need to make sure I talk about in those meetings, whether they're status updates or questions to ask, things like that. I just capture those here. And it's great to have all the weeks set up because as I'm going through this week, I may think, oh, next week I need to make sure I ask this. I can just flip to that week and capture it there, so I always have a running list. The other thing I like to leave myself is just a little space for notes, anything that doesn't really fall into any of the other categories, but I just want to make sure I capture for the week. Sometimes I use this for like accomplishments of the team, kudos, some maybe recognition that was received by any of my teammates or myself. I just use that here, and then I will pull from these notes at the end of the month when I do my monthly review. The only other thing I always add on this page is I like to count and keep track of what week of the year we're in. So for this week, this will be week 9. All right, so that is the weekly setup. I'm going to go ahead and set up the rest of the weeks and then come back and kind of flip through how they turned out. All right, so I finished setting up the weeks. I also went ahead and set up the daily pages too, so I can talk about those. So here's the weekly setup, and I've got 5 weeks for the 5 weeks of March. I went ahead and set up the last week, even though the last week actually ends in April. I went ahead and set that up. So again, I've got the daily sections, which what I put in the daily sections are anything that must be done on that day, and also key due dates. So for example, if I have a report that has to go out on Thursday the 11th, I will make sure and mark that there so I keep that in front of me. If I need to have that report drafted and sent out for reviews by Monday the 8th, I will put that as an action item there. So that's how I use these very small daily sections, is just for very specific to the day items. Anything that I just need to work on or get accomplished or focus on this week, I will put into the to-do section, but these aren't necessarily tied to a specific date. And then of course I'm reaching back to my master list, which really comes from a brain dumping process or migrating things from the previous months that haven't been done into this section. I'll pull from here to get this populated at the end of each week when I do my weekly review. So that's how I use the weekly pages, and you can see there's clear differentiation between what goes on the monthly pages and the weekly pages. And again, I think that is really important if you're going to use multiple setups like the Hobonichi, where you have monthly, weekly, and daily. And then daily setups are really simple. There is just each page has the day and the date. It's split in half, and that's pretty much it. For how I set these up, I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then a spillover page. And this is just in case I have a crazy day and completely run out of room with the 2 columns and I need to come spill over onto this page. Now, on very rare occasions, I have filled up the entire spillover page and still needed more space. When that happens, I just flip to the last page for the end of the month, go to the next page, and just keep going. I don't limit myself to a certain number of pages for the month, so I can keep right on going as far as I want to, and then wherever it stops, when I go to set up the next month, I'll just turn the page and set up there. So what goes on my daily pages? Daily pages are all about rapid logging. And if you're familiar with the bullet journal method, you're familiar with that term. Rapid logging is just jotting down things as you go through the day. So what you would typically see here are meeting minutes. So as I'm sitting in a meeting and, you know, someone says something that I need to remember, or there's an action item that comes out of that meeting for me, or something I need to go check into or ask additional question about, I will capture that here. Phone calls that I get, so let's say I get a phone call that says, hey, could you provide me, you know, such and such, or, you know, can you have your team look into this? I will capture that in here as well. And so it's really just rapid logging. At the end of the day, I will make sure, or even throughout the day as necessary, I will take a look at all the rapid logging notes and move any action items to a couple of different places depending on what they are. I may move it back to the weekly spread in the to-do section or in a specific day. If it occurs, if it needs to be done next week or the following week, I will go ahead and put it on the master to-do list for the month. That way I don't lose track of anything. And even if it doesn't need to be done this month, but it needs to be done sometime in the future, I will go ahead and capture it on the master to-do list for this month, because one of the steps I take when I'm setting up my month and actually filling things in is I go back and look at the previous month, and I start with looking at the master to-dos just to see what's not completed there, and then I'll pull things over. So I'm always migrating forward anything that hasn't been done or, you know, needs to be scheduled for a future date. So that's how I use the monthly, weekly, and daily pages and how I set them up in my work bullet journal. I hope this has been helpful for you. I would welcome any questions that you have about how I use the system, or, you know, how I balance, you know, the different sections of the planner, or any of the supplies and materials I use. Please leave those questions down below, and I will make sure to answer them. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to Planning Annie for more content like this, and as always, thanks for planning with me.